afternoon to our esteemed viewers, and this is the community show. This show focuses on issues related to people in our communities that affect the day-to-day life of people. And today's topic is one that is interesting. We are going in the festive season. Not uncommon that during this time, the consumption rate of people all over the world increases from meat to eggs to milk to even vegetables to other foods such as cereals and grains. However, that may not be the only cause that raises demand. There could also be other things that cause demand of food in a number of countries. And today, particularly talking about food and grains, we are going to address or talk about an issue that has seemed to capture attention recently. The demand of grain in Teso Sub-Region, that is the eastern part of Uganda, has risen highly. And on investigation, it has been discovered that that is because of the high demand coming from the Kenyan Traders. Now, the western part of Kenya has experienced some drought, for sure, possibly also causing the high demand, but there could also be other reasons causing this high demand. The Daily Monitor of November 21st of November 2022 reported that Kenyan traders flocked Teso Region for grains. And this, of course, had an implication on the economy of Teso Sub-Region, on the economy of Eastern Uganda, and largely on the economy of Uganda. We are going to talk about that today. And to help us understand this and substantiate this further, I'm joined by people who work within that area and also have knowledge about that area. I would ask them, each one of them, to introduce themselves briefly, what they do, and then we shall delve deep into the conversation. I'll begin with you, Berna, then Peter, and then Douglas, and consequently, Richard.
Thank you so much, Martin. Good morning, everyone. And my name is Beatrice Berna Akwi. I come from Teso, particularly I come from Katakwi district. And I work with the Great Lakes Institute for Strategic Studies. Most of the times you find that I am at home. And yes, I think that is it, Martin. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is Arikos Peter. I am also a former Eastern Youth MP aspirant. And my nature of work of late makes me to be around Soroti, which falls under Teso Sub-Region. So whatever you're talking about, I have been seeing it with my eyes. I've been seeing it happen most often. So I want to thank you for having me, and I hope we shall have a great discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Douglas Onen, a student of law at Uganda Christian University. I come from Gulu district, not so far away from Soroti, and this is a topic that is pertinent to all of us from the region. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Okay, we shall now commence. I'll begin with you, Peter. Is this something new? And first of all, you could assess for us what the situation is like. Is it the same way it has been reported? Because it's possible for the reporting to paint a different picture from what is on the ground. So what can you tell us about this trading and, as it has been reported? What can you tell us? Is it the same or it's different? What are the facts on the ground about this phenomenon of Kenyan traders and Ugandan traders trading in grains, and what could have brought this?
Yes, Martin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Berna, please give us an assessment of what the situation is like in the region when it comes to this issue of traders, Kenyan traders.
Yes, Martin, true. What New Vision reported last week?
Yes, Mr. Martin.
It's really true. And I have been home and really seeing these traders on the ground. They do not come in like in the real traders, but you find they have brokers there. People now in the communities are ferrying food, like they are really selling off all the foods that they had got. And yet, so this year the harvest has been very low because of the bad weather. We experienced a lot of drought was there, and the people really did not have a good harvest. But for some time now, there are people, unfortunately, the community is not very, very aware that this food that is being bought from them is being taken to another country. You find that these guys they go to the villages. They have penetrated deep in the villages. They buy food. They come, like they go home to home. They ask you what you have, what you can sell on the side of grains, mostly on the green grams, the maize, the sorghum, millets, and other grains. They come, they ask whether you're selling them, and obviously these people, as being desperate, from the time of actually COVID, people like the poverty level has really increased. So people run to sell whatever they got because they want some money. Now you find that their food, the grain is taken away. But I'm telling you, after a few months, we are going to have disaster in Teso Region. Because now the little that they got, and this is the time, as you had said, the consumption is very high. Why? Because the children have come back from schools. They are now at home for holidays, and the festive season is also coming in. People sell off the whatever they have because they also want money for the Christmas season. So it's really challenging. I don't know what we are going to do, but I think, to some extent, to me, what the way I look at things, it's like the community needs to be talked to be sensitized. Like they shouldn't just rush to sell what they got, because we do not know the next weather conditions, how we are going to have the next harvest. Are we going to have the next rains in order to plant more? So if they sell off whatever they have now, what will happen after 5 months from now? Just know in Feb, March to be disaster again. So to me, I think we need to create awareness to these people. We need to tell them to stop selling off the food, the grains, because at least when they have the maize, they can be able to grind and make some posho, and they're able to consume, particularly this time when the children are at home. But you even find that somebody there down in my village in Kataku, you find a person selling of whatever they got, and yet at home, they even don't have food that they can feed on. They do not have what to feed on. They can have like one meal in a day. But why? Because they are selling off this was, they want money. People want money. So in a way, I see children are going to be starved. in this season because of these traders. Because these people come, they use brokers who just come and buy the food stuff in bulk, and then their work is to just connect they go between the other main traders in Kenya and then the people, the community. So for them, they just come and collect the food and then they take it to the border. They take it to the border. So people down there in the villages do not know where this food really goes. Somebody comes, they think maybe they are just buying this food and it is taken to the market, but they do not know that the food gets out of the country. But I'm sure if the population, if the community is sensitized, is being talked to stop selling off these grains, we may have, it will be better for them. Okay, that is my submission, Martin.
Thank you very much.
You.
Yes, and we'd like to hear from you, Peter, your assessment of the situation. How is the situation, like for the people in Teso, and is it only that is affected? There is also another, we share border, other regions also share border. There is Bukedia, region, South region also, the Bukedia district, and all that. There is also up in the Karamoja sub-region. Is it also the same? And there is also down the Busia, part. So please assess for us the situation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martin. I'm sorry I wasn't able to hear you earlier on, half of the discussion, but I'm now on. One, the food crisis in Kenya has triggered the mad dash for grain in Teso sub-region by the Kenyan Traders, which has escalated the price of the commodities in the sub-region. I want to give you the statistics of a few prices for the grains currently as they stand. The maize that was costing 500 shillings a kilogram is now 1,700. And sorghum that was 400 shillings is now at 1,400. So you see, I always believe that knowledge is being aware of what you can do, while wisdom is knowing when to do it. The Kenyan traders flocking Teso region for the grains is supposed to boost the incomes of the farmers in Teso and Kenya. The food trade aims to link remote smallholder farmers to high-paying buyers, especially in Kenya. But you see, the main reason why Teso smallholder farmers do this is because often they are frustrated. They are frustrated by the lack of access to lucrative markets. This is initially meant to bring farmers together and building their capacity for better quality produce and marketing. But this initiative of the food trade, it needs to be watched. It needs to be watched closely because they can instead be catastrophic. There will be hunger in the long run because of unfair trade practice that is ongoing as we speak. One, most of these farmers are not aware that Kenya can sell to us products we don't have. And then he buys the whole granary from Teso. And this is where my question comes in. How much do we export to Kenya? How much does Uganda export to Kenya? The revenues alone at Mombasa port is enough to take Teso to poverty, is enough to take Teso to hunger. So for me, I'm calling on the government to regulate this. It's very important that we understand most of the grains that pass through the Busia border are taken to Turkana or Masai land, where the food shortage has caused the humanitarian crisis. Yes, there was a ban on Ugandan grain. There was a ban on Ugandan grain, but the current situation has seen the prices of posho rise in Kenya, and that is why the ban is no longer applicable. But how is this going to leave Teso? Because the food prices in Teso sub-region will rise further due to the current poor harvest. As we speak, Mr. Martin, there is poor harvest in Teso. It's very hard for us Ugandans to cross from Uganda to Kenya without showing your national ID or a passport. It's only us who allow everybody, including foreigners, to do whichever business, to do whichever kind of business they want with us. So Busia and Malaba markets are supposed to work as centers for exchanging goods between the citizens and their neighboring countries. But Kenyans go beyond, they go beyond the borders to buy goods. And this has a lot of meaning. It has actually even lost meaning. It has lost meaning. And that is why I earlier on said that knowledge and wisdom need to be distinguished. Knowledge in this trade, in the food trade between Teso sub-region and Kenya, it needs to be washed out. Knowledge is being aware of what you can do, while wisdom is knowing when not to do it. And I think that is what the leaders in Teso, the leaders in our country need to be focused on right now, because there is going to be a serious food crisis in Teso. It's going to be there. Thank you. That is my submission.
Thank you for that. This is where I want you, Onen, to come in as a student, as a scholar. What do you make of this? Don't you think essentially this is actually good for trade, good for regional integration, but also good for the intercultural, experience of people? Is there something wrong when people who are neighbors trade and interact with each other, when people who are neighbors are able to share food with each other, considering that actually Uganda largely enjoys stable food supply throughout the year?
Thank you very much, Alex. First of all, honored for being on this distinguished panel. As I earlier on communicated, my name is Douglas Onen, a student of law at Uganda Christian University. Allow me to start forward by saying that the problems that the Kenyans are facing now is a problem that is as a result of climate change. So before I go into answering the question of whether the Kenyans coming into Teso region and buying the food stuff, the grains and all is good for regional integration, allow me to start by saying that we need to understand where the Kenyans are coming from. And that is as a result of climate change. So when we're having this discussion, we need to know that as Ugandans, if we are having the food now, we should also consider as what is happening to our brothers in Kenya, that we need, whenever we are doing all our activities, we need to put at the back of our minds that climate change is here, is with us, and we have to find ways to fight it and mitigate it. That said, answering the question of the Kenyan moving into Teso to buy the goods, whether it's good for regional integration. Theoretically, trade is something that it's good, and it's good for the development of the area. I was in Teso some years back, and I noticed Soroti is quite an industrious and developed town. And the Kenyans moving into Teso to buy grains. The grains, for example, maize was at 500. Now it's at 1,700 per kilo. So if you're to speak from the perspective of a capitalist and a perspective of an economist, that would be good for the area. But then if you're to look and give the argument of a layman or as someone who is on the ground, as Miss Beatrice Akwi said, that children are back from school and parents and guardians are selling all that they have without considering to have some kept. What does that then do? That will then render us vulnerable when we're faced with scarcity, when we're faced with times where we do not have, or when we're faced with times of uncertainties like drought. So from that angle of argument, one would then say that it's not good for us to sell away everything. And I agree with Beatrice when she says the communities need to be sensitized. It's good that they're seeing the money is coming in, but also they should note that with good times also follow bad times. So when we are making decisions, we should also make decisions knowing there's a tomorrow and we should have food for tomorrow. But for purposes of regional integration, it is good for Teso region. It's good for business of the area. But it being good for the business of the area, we should also, the community should note that we need to consider when we're doing our activities, we should consider climate change, we should consider planting more trees, we should consider avoiding or reclaiming swamps, because I said climate change is with us and it's here to stay. So let us mitigate it and fight it together. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, Drake makes quite some pertinent and valid points, because honestly, it's true that Kenya is having a climate catastrophe with a drought, that is facing that part in their western part, and in the north. Serious drought where they're facing, people are facing starvation, death. We've had the same before in the Karamoja region, where many people faced drought and actually people died because of that. And we asked ourselves, why shouldn't the regions that have plenty give to Karamoja, hold trade with Karamoja? At the time we asked these questions, and we actually hosted a show here, and we were wondering how a country like Uganda would. I honestly think we have surplus food, at least the essential food, grains, and all that. We have surplus of it, and it's a staple of the region. Why would we have people die of starvation? And Onen indeed brings it up that this is also, in as much as it has trade aspects, it's also a humanitarian, kind of action or call to supply food to the places that need it. But maybe, of course, the challenge is that the traders are utilizing this to hoard, to do also other illegal trade practices. So I want to come back to you, to Berna, and then I'll ask some question to you, Peter. How can we ensure the coexistence of both, traders? I mean, to ensure that there is coexistence of trading, but also to ensure that people do not starve because of this kind of trading. What should be done, considering that also banning trade with Kenya wouldn't be something plausible? I don't know what you think, or whether you think it should be banned or that. So what in your perspective should be done to lessen the burden on the people in Teso, like you said, possible scarcity of food, but also promote the regional interest, regional trade among its neighbors, and also respond to the urgent humanitarian need of food in Kenya, in the western part of Kenya.
Thank you, Martin. I think, yes, regional integration is very important for our economy. We need it so much. especially when you look at this time that we are in of economic recovery. Regional integration is important. And it also helps us when we do trading with Kenya and any other neighboring country. It also helps us in a way that we shall also have peace, like stability in the region, because there is that brotherhood, there is that good relationship amongst the countries. This is really good. But I think to some extent, I am not sure if these traders who flock into Uganda and especially go to Teso, like I'm not sure whether the state of Kenya is aware about it. And I would suggest that it will be very important for us in Uganda, like if government could come up with a policy to regulate on this trade. Yes, we need policies that regulate the trade, the international trade, and even within the local trade. We need some policies that regulate us. Yes, if someone has got a harvest, for example, if someone has got 10 bags, 10 to 20 bags of, let's say, maize. Yes, we know that a family cannot consume all that in one season and finish. Yes, we can say, if you've got like 20 bags of maize, you can sell maybe like 5 or 10. People need to be aware of that. And then you just don't impose that and say you are not supposed to sell off everything that you have. This information is power. Like we need to talk to these people, tell them the importance of commercial farming and subsistence. I can bring it that way. Yes, you can grow your crops, sell some because you need some money to pay off maybe school fees, medical bills, but also retain some for the home consumption. Do not leave the family to starve because you want to get only money. And it is even more dangerous, especially now that they are in Teso, because you know in Teso, people like drinking a lot. Say if a man has a higher voice a higher voice on a woman. So a man can just decide to dictate on the woman and say, now that we have got 20 bags of maize, I am selling off all this, maybe I leave you with only 5. So the woman here back at home is struggling to see that the children eat, but the food is not there. The man has sold off everything. And this man can sell off the 15 bags and does not bring money home even sometimes. You get it? The man may not even bring money. There are very few, by the way. Those real people in the village, they will go and drink all the money. The woman remains stranded at home. The woman remains there. The child can be sick, but she does not even have any money to take the child to hospital. So I think the government needs to come up with a regulatory rules on this trade. And also these people, if they are to come to the community that they are buying, I mean, they need to be known. We have several, like maybe the farmers, like we have the farmers groups, and in those farmers groups, we have the leaders there. Let them go through the leaders of those farmers groups. So the leaders of the farmers groups will be able to talk to their members and say, now that we have this harvest, how many people have 50 bags of say sorghum? How many have 50 bags of green gram? Can we sell off some and then we retain? So actually those leaders of the farmers groups will be able to implement these policies. If the government came up with any, like they will be the ones to pass to the farmers down there. And you will find that when when the government comes up with such a policy, we shall have balanced. At least we would have got a balancing point. Yes, the family will have what to feed on. And also there will be, we are promoting the international trade, which is really good for our economy. And then, yes, the kind of economy that we have, I think, is just a laissez-faire economy. Like, there's free entry and exit, just like Onen had said. You find that our borders really need to be checked on. So many people flog into our country illegally. I think that restriction is not there. And yet other countries, it's very hard for you to get into just like that. Why don't we become so strict in Uganda also and say, before you get into cross the border to Uganda, can you first define, like, clearly tell us the reasons? I mean, why are you going to Uganda, first of all? What is taking you there? We need to verify, because you find that a thug can just cross into the country, a terrorist can cross into the country, because we do not have strict rules at the borders. What is taking you to Uganda? And if you're going to Uganda, for how long are you going to be there? We need to have all those details so that we are able to track. If the person gets into the country and does not get back to the border on the date that the person had reported, you're able to call and also be able to make a follow-up until you get that person, because you never know who has entered. You will allow a terrorist, before you know it, they have bombed the city. So that is important. Then lastly, Martin, I think, yes, we need to register these farmers. We can register them under their groups or regional, or this in a, like, register the farmers in Akwi and obtain how many they are, what do they produce, how much do they produce, yes, how much produce do they have in a season, for us to balance off the things, such that before we allow traders from another country to come into our country, we know how much they are going to take, what exactly they are going to take. And I think that we shall be good to move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Berna, for those quite interesting insights. And also for sharing those a number of concerns that have to do with our porous borders, and also food security and illegal trade indeed. Peter, what do you think should be done to balance this interest, if there is any interest to balance? Or we shouldn't actually balance regional interests, we should concentrate on food security of our people, and that is it. What do you think, Peter?
Oh, Mr. Martin,
You've listened to both Onen and Akwi, and you add on and also give your own assessment of the balance.
Yeah, it's true. Mr. Martin, the reality is we are in tough times, but these tough times need tough people and tough decisions. The food trade enables the economy to grow, and this benefits every individual that is involved in the trade. This initiative needs to be watched closely, because, for example, if Uganda and Teso in particular gets hit by food crisis, I'm not sure if Kenya will allow the traders of Teso, Uganda, to have a mad dash for the grains in Kenya. I'm not sure that it will happen. And that is why I always say that Omugabi tiesera. Omugabi. There is that local saying in Luganda that says Omugabi tiesera. You're not supposed sometimes to actually make yourself suffer in the long run when all things go amiss. The trade will establish a regional backbone, infrastructure, and improve the trade among our countries. And the food trade is the most intimate and socially personal medium in the region. First, I am happy that we come always to deliberate on the most pressing issues that affect us, all of us as a region, But as I'm coming to an end, I would like to say this. Life does not provide warranties and guarantees. It provides possibility and opportunities for those who dare to make the best use of it. Either way, maybe because of the too much money they are offering the Teso traders, they are seeing it can help them cope up or go back and do more planting. But to me, I think the grains are still being bought at a cheap price. Because if these grains cross back to Kenya and they are processed, we buy them expensive. We actually buy them very expensive. So there is a lot of intervention involved in this initiative. I want to thank you.
Douglas, this gentleman and lady raised quite points to note, and the fact that Kenya has a bigger economy and then Uganda has a smaller economy is an important issue here, and it catalyzes this kind of trade, which is unfair, because Kenyan traders will come with their stronger shilling to the Ugandan market, whose shilling is weaker. That means they have the ability to purchase much more at less, which knocks out technically the traders in Uganda. And yet it's not as easy for the traders in Uganda to purchase products from Kenya because the Kenyan shilling is stronger. And those are things we cannot whitewash. It's important, and you would see the side of the argument for those ones who want stronger protectionism. I'm wondering and asking what your reaction is to that and what you would add. How can we maintain this harmony, this balance? Yes, you talked about the humanitarian need, and which should be responded to, honestly, but we can't whitewash the fact that there are traders who tricksters or who utilize this chance to engage in unfair trade. Come with a lot, come with their money, get so much for so less, then leaving the scarcity or knocking out competition from the others. Yeah, true. East Africa has we have an open sort of market. We're trying to trade with each other freely, and but still this has also shown that there's a bit of unfair trade even with this open, open market, common markets, we're for an free trade, we're trading freely, but there's still unfair tenants. So what do you think we should do to ensure the needs of the people who are being affected by this unfair trade but also to streamline that trade. What should we do? I've said many things, but you get the context, and it's important to give your perspective.
Okay, allow me start by saying that the scholarly argument that the scholarly argument that I would start by first putting forward is it's always good for an economy that is growing like Uganda to receive or bring in shillings or monies or monetary value that is stronger than the one that we get than the one that we have. Kenya, yeah, in itself, Kenya is a stronger economy than the one of Uganda, and it's much bigger, which I believe in this 21st century, it is something that happens in most African states or even in the world at large. We have bigger, we have growing, and we have weaker economies. And Uganda being an economy that is growing and it's weaker than that of Kenya, it is good, the scholarly argument says it is good to receive the shillings that come from Kenya to Uganda for the growth of our own economy. But then the realistic argument or what is on ground is people are, or the business people in the areas of Teso are afraid that they're being knocked out of business. I would want us to be open and look at it and look at this from both ways. We look at it from the angle we look at it from the angle of the businessmen in Teso and Uganda at large, but also we look at it from the angle of the development in Teso region. Let's look at it now from the angle of the businessmen in Teso and Uganda at large. It's true that we may not have the stronger currency or the capacity that the Kenyan traders may have as compared to our local traders. But on the brighter side, it's good that these Kenyans are going to purchase these goods from us, possibly at a cheaper price. But if we are to put these particular monies, or we are to change these monies in our capacity of Uganda, it is relatively good. That said, what we then have to do, or what can Uganda do as a country, is when this is happening now, we made the argument of regional integration, and regional integration connotes to free trade, like open trade. We freely trade with each other without any barriers. So if I told Uganda is going to come up with a policy that would hold Ugandans from trading with Kenyans, like we saw the Kenyans halting Ugandans from sending our grain in some few years ago, it's not good for the relationship between Kenya and Uganda. I believe as Ugandans, we are nice to the point that when our neighbors stop us from doing something or taking our products to them, we do not stop them from bringing their products to us. So if I told you to take that draconian line of us coming up with measures of halting Kenyans from coming into Uganda, we would beat the aspect or would beat the idea of a one East African region or the aspect of East African integration. So the only thing that I would then recommend that we need to do is we need to have a standard price for these goods and commodities to avoid the exploitation of the local people or the local area. Now that will come down to the leadership of the region, because I know they have the capacity and power to regulate the prices of goods in the region, even starting from simple organizations like the trading associations in Soroti. So it would be up to the local government to sit down with those with such associations and come up with a standard price for those goods to avoid the exploitation of the local man or the local farmer in the region, but also to avoid uh, the local Ugandan who wants to do trade with the people in Teso from being knocked out of business, because once the standard price is set, we avoid the issue to do with fluctuations, because we know uh, agricultural products, their prices usually fluctuate. So my only solution, or my only solution that I offer in tonight's topic is let the local area, the local leadership of Teso sit down with the Traders Association or the social movements that deal in grain in the region, agree on the amount of these prices to also avoid them being cheated, but also to avoid having our local people or other local Ugandans that deal in business being knocked out of business. But the broader scale is the Kenyans coming to trade with Ugandans. It's very good. not only for integration, but also it's good for the development of Teso as a region. Conclusively, let us welcome this with open arms. I know we are complaining that we are selling everything that is going to prevent us from having what to have in our regions, but also when we sell, we get monies. We get these monies that will help us survive. I think at this point whereby we are faced with various problems as a nation, when we have the money to at least help us sustain a livelihood, let us also, as farmers, not sell away everything. Let's leave something for the next season. But conclusively, the local leadership should sit down with the social movements and agree on the prices they can have for these particular grains to prevent both people being knocked out of business, to prevent the local traders from Uganda being knocked out of business, but also to keep the Kenyans coming in to trade with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And indeed, those insights have been quite impressive. We have reached the end of this show, and I will give one round to each, one round, so that each one of us says something and their closing remarks in 1 minute, something that you really think should be prioritized, that you really have to mention. I'll begin with you, Peter, Douglas, then end with Berna.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Martin. I am positive that the food trade will establish a regional backbone infrastructure. But also, this food trade will generate more inclusive, sustainable growth. And this is going to be achieved through better spending, composition, and stronger governance. Uganda, along with much of the sub-Saharan Africa, Kenya inclusive, faced extraordinary challenges since the pandemic hit. This explains why IMF has stepped in helping most of our countries and our economies with loans and all of that. But I am very much positive that if this is well managed, both countries, both regions, both sub-regions are going to benefit. And once more, I want to thank you for having me. And I want to thank everyone that has been on this show. At least I have also been learning through the deliberations from everybody. I have been learning a lot. I thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm very glad and happy that I've been part of this distinguished panel. I've had all the insights shared by Ms. Beatrice Akwi, Mr. Arikos, and you, our able host, Mr. Martin. It's been an interesting conversation. My parting shots would be that as Uganda, we should embrace regional integration, but also as we embrace regional integration, when we are engaging in trade, we shouldn't forget that we are faced with climate change. So when we are practicing our various agricultural activities, let us remember to plant trees. Let us remember to avoid reclamation of swamps, because what Kenyans are facing now, the scarcity that is in Kenya now, we shall also face it in Uganda. So we shouldn't close a blind eye and think that what Kenyans are facing coming to Uganda for food, it's only one-sided. We should put in mind that all we have to do is, as we practice our activities, at the back of our minds, we have climate change. Thank you.
Thank you. Berna?
I want to take this opportunity to thank Martin and CCG team and every other person, all the panelists. And thank you so much, Peter and my brother Arikos. Thank you so much for your contributions. Yes, learning is a process. And indeed, today on this day, I'm really very glad that I was able to learn something new. And I want to extend my sincere request to you, Martin, that if such shows could continue, like if we could hold such shows continuously, we shall be able to build on the knowledge, and also if we can extend it more down to the community, if you can hear their views also on such shows. We want to hear what their arguments are, and I'm sure when we have such shows, they're able to pick up something, they're able to learn, not only us, but even them, they will pick a thing or two. Thank you so much. And I would like to conclude by urging that the government still needs to do more on these restrictions. Climate change is something that we cannot do without. It's something that we have to manage to live by. And me and you, we all have a responsibility to say that we do something on climate change in order to avoid, to curb the disasters that come along with the climate change. Yes, we can do a lot of tree planting. Let's spare our swamps. Let us plant more grass. Let us establish irrigation systems. And when we do all that, I'm sure this issue of famine that affects the humanitarians will come down. I'm really so grateful, and I wish everyone all the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, dear Berna. Yeah, what our conversation is panelists have said is indeed important, and we should give it the due attention it deserves. The serious issues that the communities are facing. There is hunger occasioned by droughts in Kenya. It's very important that we heed to that call, the humanitarian call. It's also true that Uganda faces some food shortages, and mainly in the east. We should heed that call. But also, it's also true that this shortage is taken advantage of by unscrupulous traders and unscrupulous people to engage in unfair trade, which only leads to more shortage in one area and not necessarily solving the issue in another. Like they have said, it's important that the leadership engages and finds a way that works both for the region, but also for the respective people in the respective communities. With this discussion, we've also noted that it is important that we fast track the common currency. We shall continue having unfair trade, unfair pricings, name it, common currency. Our goods will still not even fetch considerable prices when we do not have a common currency as the East African region. That is an issue that the leadership should seriously look at. The time frames that were given are even very long. It should be fast-tracked because we need it as East Africans. We need it. We need it for people to trade with each other. We also need fair trade in East Africa. We need to welcome each other. Kenyans welcoming Ugandans, Ugandans welcoming Kenyans, because we share a lot. We also need to heed to each other's calls, because that is important. It is who we are as East Africans. It is who we are as Ugandans. Always embrace people, to always work together. This unfair trade should not cause tensions between border communities on both sides of the two East African region countries. I thank all of you for being a part of this show. We don't take the time of the panelists and the time of the audience for granted. Please give us feedback. Please leave your comments you can comment in the comment section. You can also comment on our Twitter handles, on the different hashtags that this show runs, mainly the community show. Thank you very much, and I wish you a great week.